Hello, welcome back to the Progressive Moose. I'm Andrew. This video will be covering a pro-Palestinian protest that took place, and there's a reason why I want to cover specifically this one. But let me give you the news story, and we'll get into it.
War has also triggered protests across this country, and today another outside a synagogue. CTV's Heather Wright on what triggered the dueling demonstrations.
Demonstrators clashed outside a synagogue just north of Toronto this afternoon.
Everybody back.
Police trying to separate the two sides as tensions flared.
I feel trapped here. Canada is no longer the country that I came to.
Palestine is not for sale.
On one side of the street, pro-Palestinian protesters enraged by a real estate seminar happening inside.
How is Canada allowing this illegal sales event to take place here?
The Great Real Estate Event advertised having experts offering advice about purchasing properties in areas that include places in the occupied West Bank.
It is unconscionable, first of all, to be selling stolen Palestinian land.
But the synagogue's rabbi says that is just an excuse to stage a protest outside a place of worship.
We've been holding these kinds of seminars for years, where realtors from Israel come and they basically just have an informational evening to show people what's for sale.
Many members of the community say this is intimidation, not a demonstration.
You can't come to a place of worship and harass prayers and harass people for being here.
Today, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau weighed in on the demonstrations that turned to hate and harassment and have targeted synagogues, Jewish-owned businesses, and community centers.
There are things to be outraged about, things that people need to continue to protest about. But hateful or harassing behavior, particularly against neighbors, is not what we do here in Canada.
Some worry these protests are escalating. An event with Trudeau and Italy's Prime Minister on Saturday in Toronto was cancelled after police deemed it unsafe to move the two politicians inside. While on Sunday in Thornhill, Ontario, a man was arrested accused of bringing a nail gun to a pro-Palestinian rally and allegedly firing it at protesters.
Police say arrests have been made here outside this synagogue today, but at this point they won't say how many or if any charges will be laid. Omar.
All right, Heather, thank you.
All right, so there you have it. That's the news story. So I'm going to give you my take on this. Before I do, absolutely, there's never a good justification for any sort of violence. So I don't care what you're protesting. As an individual, if you then get violent, sorry, but you have no justification. That's it. You're done. That's my line. Nothing should ever get violent, and nothing should ever go against somebody else's rights. That's how I look at it, right? So if you want to peacefully protest, go ahead and peacefully protest. Now, in terms of this specific, I'll also admit I normally would say, like, yeah, don't go protest at a place of worship unless there's actually something, like, if there's something actually going on within that building or something that has openly, something is openly known that a place of worship or somebody within a place of worship is doing something majorly wrong, then okay. But as a general term, like, yeah, there's really no reason for you to protest at a place of worship. However, in this case, and that's where I wanted to break this down, okay, because yes, it is a place of worship. Where I think the issue lies is they're having a seminar for Israeli real estate agents, or however you want to say that, selling land, which, okay, normally, fine. Even that, I'd say, yeah, don't go protest. But the fact that there is occupied land for sale, that's where, really, again, goes against international law. If it's occupied land, it's not theirs to sell, right? So you're selling occupied land. You're selling land that isn't yours, and it'd be the same as somebody coming in and, you know, let's say taking your land or taking your property and then going off and trying to sell it. They don't have the right to do that. So would you go and protest that? I'm sure you would. Right? So within this case, within this protest itself, and again, if people are getting violent or, you know, saying anything that could be deemed as hate speech, you know, that sort of stuff, or going against the rights of people to worship, like that I don't condone. Right? But if they're protesting the sale of occupied land, so the sale of land that is not theirs to sell, I absolutely go protest that. And I would say that, like, just to be clear on that, like if they were to rent a hall somewhere, say like a Legion or Elks Hall or something of that nature, and they rented a hall to go do this real estate seminar, absolutely go protest there. And yeah, you're getting into muddy waters because this one's being held at a place of worship. Understandably. But within that, if it's a place of worship, why are you holding a real estate seminar? That's my issue. Okay? Within that context, you're going to sell occupied land? I would absolutely say go protest that. And that doesn't, you know, I'm not saying because it's at a synagogue, I'm saying in general. The fact that it's at a synagogue, yes, brings more complexity to this protest in that sense. But if they're protesting the sale of occupied land, if that's why they're there protesting, then absolutely. I think that is completely justified. And again, just to clarify one more time before I wrap up this video, I condemn any sort of violence or hate speech towards anyone for any reason. Okay? That should not happen. At the end of that video, they talked about a different protest where somebody had shown up with a nail gun and reportedly, as alleged, had fired it at people. So at that point, it was a weapon, right? So if that's what happened, then they need to be held responsible for their actions. Right? It's against the law to do such a thing. So, yes, they should face the consequences. So, you know, like, again, no violence, no hate speech. I do not agree with doing that sort of thing. Okay? And, yes, there's been a massive uptick in hate crimes, essentially, towards the Jewish community in Canada and U.S. and really around the world because of a war that's happening on the other side of the earth that, you know, it's Hamas and the Israeli government or military, which, I mean, both would be true because it's the Israeli government that's ordering the military to do things that they're doing. But point being, you cannot blame Jewish communities in Canada, you can't blame Jewish communities at all for what's happening, okay? Just as you can't blame Palestinians for what Hamas did. Because again, Palestinians and Jewish people are people, right? The entities that are fighting the conflict, the Israeli government / military, and the Hamas military. All right, the Hamas fighters. Because yes, Hamas is labeled a terrorist organization. You could argue that technically they are the governing body of Gaza, which you're not wrong. But they are labeled terrorist organization for a reason. They got rid of democracy. They took over essentially in an authoritarian way. And they shouldn't be legitimized as the leaders of Gaza at this point. So, yeah, but it's those two entities that are fighting this conflict. It's not the Jewish communities. It's not the Palestinian communities. Okay? It's those two entities. So there's no reason to go after one another. But again, in terms of this protest, I do agree. If they're selling occupied land that is not theirs to sell, absolutely protest it. Because at that point, people are protesting the fact you're selling the land. They're not protesting that people are Jewish, or they're not protesting the fact that you're worshiping there. They're protesting the fact that there's a seminar selling stolen land. That's why they're protesting there. That is the base context for it. Okay, get rid of the bad faith actors, so to speak, in terms of, you know, going above and beyond just peacefully protesting. Take them out of it. Yes, let them be held accountable for their actions, and, you know, let them face the consequences. Absolutely. But if you're peacefully protesting for that reason, I absolutely agree with it. Because again, yes, it's a place of worship, but if you're going to hold, again, a real estate seminar selling occupied land, at that moment, it's not a place of worship. Well, it would be a place of worship still, but you're not using it for a place of worship if you're trying to sell land that is not yours. So absolutely protest that. I feel bad for anybody that has faced any hate speech or any hate crimes here in Canada and anywhere because of the conflict that's going on with the government of Israel and Hamas. And I absolutely want that to come to an end. I want peace. I want nobody else to die because of war. I don't want the kids to starve anymore in Gaza. I don't want anyone to starve, for that matter. But you get where I'm going with this. So anyway, till next time, guys.